Yeah, we grew up, but nobody warned us. Life moves fast when the world keeps turning. Kids in the backseat, parents getting older. Still leaning on my brothers when the weight gets colder. Whoa, we're all just trying to make it through. Whoa, love you, pal, I got you. Whoa, we're all just trying to make it through. Love ya, pal, I got you.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 7 of the Love You Pal podcast with me, Sean, Jay, and Mike here, bringing you the sandwich generation of life talk and advice and anything that is in that sandwich. We are the filling between two pieces of bread between our kids and our parents. So to recap last week, we talked about vacations. We talked about expectations on vacations and how we need to temper those expectations, right? Almost not even have expectations, because that's going to allow us to kind of go with the flow and be more present in the moment with our families as we do spend a bunch of time with them. Anything else you guys want to recap about last week?
The one thing I forgot to mention was how much we loved listening to Michael sing all of his songs at the top of his lungs in the van
That is
on
true.
all these road trips. It was.
Yeah, I thought he was going to be an artist.
I don't know how he didn't become like America's Next Top Talented Singer.
Listen, you can't listen to 98 Degrees and not sing.
Well, I mean,
Bro,
I don't know that we listen to 98 Degrees. We listen to a lot of oldies.
no, that he was listening to 98 Degrees.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
on my
that's true,
Walkman.
on his
What?
Walkman.
And then you got like Tom Seeger or something like that, and you were rocking out to that for a while. Or what? I can't remember what it was. It was like an oldies, but bro,
Oldies, but
Gotta
not
love-
oldies.
Well, you gotta love you can't have a road trip without singing at the top of your lungs. I still do it.
what was it? It was either that or we listened to a book that Mom chose for us.
That's true. That's very true.
God,
Yeah.
books on tape.
Catcher in the Rye.
Books on tape.
9
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah, summer reading.
Summer reading.
Thought you weren't going to get to do your summer reading. Think again. I was at the library.
Hold my beer.
That's
Went
the
to the
only
old
trick she
Parsippany
used was
Library.
she was able to find her summer reading books on tape because she knew we weren't going to read them.
Yeah.
But
I went and saw
for-
The Odyssey, and I think that's the only book I read in high school. It was a great movie, great book. Tyler.
You know what's funny is that there's a lot of people that ask me, like, what is this movie about? I'm like, bro, it's about a book, like the Iliad and the Odyssey. You
Yeah.
don't know that?
Yeah.
No,
Come
never
on.
heard it. Well,
Odysseus, bro.
maybe, I run with a different crowd sometimes.
to add
Not a lot
into
of
what
people
Jay
reading the
said
Odyssey at
last.
Firehouse.
No,
Mm-mm.
All right. So,
but
do
just
you got?
real quick
Go
to add into what Jay was saying from last week, I thought a lot about it over the last week, and the presence, the fact that we reiterated being present in the moment you're in. I think it's going to be a reoccurring theme, especially as we dig into today, and the stuff we're going to talk about today. So, yeah, just being present. And bring back the family reunion.
Yeah, so talking about what we're going to get into today, everybody has those movies or comedians or characters or actors that they love. And for us, it was always John Candy and Chris Farley. We're always two of our probably our top two that we had growing up. So like the difference is like, we were talking about like the difference between watching it when you're in high school or 8th grade or whatever, when it came out, versus watching it as an adult. And like the differences you see that you don't really recognize as a kid that you recognize now. So, I mean, like when
the
like
fact that you get
throwing it out
emotional.
there, when was the last time you guys watched one of the Candy or a Farley movie?
Sorry,
I mean-
I had a little visitor.
So
So they come up often. Working midnight shift, a lot of the old movies come on. So I'm constantly rewatching some old movies. I would say within the last year, I couldn't put a finger on it, but within the last year, Tommy Boy definitely was one of them.
But yeah,
And
100%.
Uncle Buck is usually on like Christmas time.
It's heavy in
he comes
rotation
back
right
around.
now. It's heavy in rotation.
So
Yeah,
I
Uncle
would say
Buck,
within the
I've seen a
last
lot of-
year, and it's always you're scrolling through, looking at what's on, what's you know the movies that you actually want to sit and watch, and it's always one of those. If they're on, you always stop.
Yeah, I mean, that's like Uncle Buck is real big in rotation right now.
Yeah,
Like you,
big. A lot
like,
of Candy movies and big in the rotation right now, quite honestly.
yeah, I watched The Great Outdoors. I put The Great Outdoors on for a little while yesterday. It's a great movie. Aykroyd, like you forget Aykroyd's in it, but like Aykroyd's character's so great, and the Candy Aykroyd combo is just such an
amazing.
epic.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah, I watch a John Candy movie almost every week. That's
Mhm.
it. If I and Kate hates it, but I don't watch new movies. I watch old movies that I've seen a million times.
I think a lot of the old
today-
movies are better than the new ones.
Yeah, today I watched Summer Rental.
so good.
I think that might be one of my favorite John Candy movies. It's between that and Uncle Buck.
Summer Rental and the Sunburn.
Summer
and that's what I
Rental-
was.
Summer Rental is so relatable now that it almost hurts. Like you were Summer Rental in North Carolina.
100%. The only thing I was missing was the broken leg. Like,
Yeah, the knee.
I was that red. Like, I don't think they needed to do makeup on me if I had played that part.
So,
No makeup
So-
needed.
tying it into Dad, Summer Rental, right? I think the Outer Banks strips too, with Dad and like the Carnegie twins, and like when he
Mhm.
walks out on the deck, he drops the tray of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. He's trying to crutch his way out.
sees women in bikinis walking by, right? Like I think of Dad on the beach. The very few times that I went to the beach, it was always like, "Oh, sunglasses on, boys."
Sunglasses on. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I mean that's like, and that's why Candy is so relatable. It's like everybody has that uncle or dad that is so relatable to John Candy, and I think that's one of the things that like Candy brought to his characters was he brought a real life person. And watching his documentary, like the I Like Me documentary, where everybody talks about like how he was, what type of guy he was, and he was a genuine guy. And Candy was just there to have a good time and put on a show and be a character that everybody could relate to. And I think
Well, and
that's why his movies are timeless.
They talk about it in that documentary, right? They made parts for his personality, not like a character. He didn't change his personality for a character. He was himself when he acted. And Uncle Buck is the biggest one. Like they talked about that one a whole lot in that documentary, right? When he's in the car with the kids, and
That was
that-
what I was just thinking of.
that was John Candy. Like when they play back the reels of him with his kids, and you're watching, what he was like in his personal life. That Uncle Buck was John Candy, and that roles, those roles, that's what was so great about him is he was truly a genuine actor, genuine person. And being on Uncle Buck, it keeps coming back to my mind. So I'm going to ask you, what person in Dad's life was your Uncle Buck? Do you remember? Because I have mine.
Mm.
It's a curveball, but it's a good one. Do you want me to tell you mine?
Yeah, because I got to think about it.
Uncle Bill.
I was just gonna say Uncle Bill. Uncle Bill was very
Uncle Bill would
Buck-like.
roll into the house, and I
Mhm.
never forget it. Right? I don't even remember how old I was, but it's like
And he was a big
ingrained
fella.
memories.
was a
He
big
was
fella.
like the John Candy of Dad's life, right? He would come into the house, and the atmosphere would change because he was just a jolly big fella that just he played games with with me, with you guys. Like he got on the floor. Like Uncle Bill reminded me so much of Uncle Buck coming into Dad's life.
That's a good one.
Yeah, no, that absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I have one. Uncle Bill's probably it.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a great one. I mean, like we were talking, made the kids watch Cool Runnings the other night, like, and talk about an underrated Candy movie where you don't think like he's in there, but like his role in that movie is pretty awesome. Like he becomes that father figure for those guys and like leads them through and like has that hard time where in the beginning where he's like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not going back. I'm not going back. But then he goes back and they end up, I mean, they don't win, but they win for themselves.
Like looking at the documentary, right? John Candy and Cool Runnings is another great example, right? Adversity. He was kicked out of the Olympics in Cool Runnings. He was the worst person anybody wanted to see at that actual event, at that, Olympics, and relate it back to his life. Like the adversity he overcame from losing his dad at 5. Like
Right.
his whole life was adversity, his weight, his health, his family, like, and he found a jolly way to get through it all, with success too, with success.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, look at that. Like you can relate that him in the weight to Farley in the weight. I mean, what is one of the number one quotes from Tommy Boy? It's fat guy in a little coat. Like who
Greatest
doesn't
line.
know that? Who doesn't know that line? Like I sing it to my kids all the time. Like fat guy in a little coat.
And you look at that Sandler song, right? We were talking in the pre-show about it. And in the Sandler song, it says, we tell him, slow down, you're going to end up like Belushi and Candy. And he said, those guys are my heroes. That's all fine and dandy. Like Chris wanted to be a cross between John Belushi and John Candy, right? Because John Candy wasn't into the same scene as Belushi and Farley were. They were into a different scene. Because let's face it, right? Chris and Belushi, they weren't married. They were single. They were younger. They didn't have families. Whereas John had family. He had kids, and he wasn't about that whole alternate life with the drinking and the drugs and all that, which takes so many amazing comedians and amazing actors and amazing musicians. Because the stresses that they face are just so great that they look for an alternative to try to escape.
Right. And
but
I
like
think,
that song just, it explains so much.
and like Candy came into comedy a little bit older. Then he kind of came into his career a little bit older than Belushi and Farley did. So he had that little bit of maturity. He had the kids. His wife is phenomenal. Like the stories you hear about his wife is just like all he cared about was taking care of his kids and his wife, and like making people laugh. That's what Candy was all about.
It's pretty cool the way that they both came up, right? So like they both came through a second city.
Right. Yeah. Second city up in Canada.
Second city in Toronto and second city in Chicago, right? And then they both went on to late night TV. Whether it was the Canadian Saturday Night Live with Harold Ramis or it was Saturday Night Live, they followed such a similar career path that it's wild when you really sit down and think about it. You're like, man, these guys were a generation apart, but they were the same individual. They did the same thing.
And what's neat is you look at, and I'll use Tom Hanks as an example, right? Tom Hanks is a well-renowned actor, well-known, has great movies. In fact, I just watched Castaway at work last night. To hear him talk so highly of John Candy, and I don't know if you caught it in the documentary, and John Candy was like, "Oh, Tom Hanks," like he didn't talk bad about him, but he was like, "Oh, Tom Hanks, he's in it for the wrong reasons or whatever, and I'm just here to be me," kind of, to hear somebody look up to John Candy as and somebody as well known as Tom Hanks, it just, again, it spoke volumes, right? And they talk about the end at his funeral. 3 times the 404 has ever been shut down, and immediately, we talked about it again, like pre-show, right? This, highly recommended. If you haven't seen it, watch. What's it, Like Me?
I Like Me.
I Like Me, John Candy, right? So they talk about shutting down the 404. They did it 3 times: the president, John Candy's funeral, and the Pope. The 404 in LA shut down with officers closing ramps, saluting John Candy as he goes by. That's the impact that this man had. And I immediately went back to Dad's funeral, right? We had to shut the doors at Dad's funeral, right? The impact, and that's where, when we're talking about these guys, for those listening, right? Dad introduced these actors in these movies into our lives. Like, this was our late night, staying up. Hey, you can watch a movie before bed. It was a John Candy or a Chris Farley movie that we were watching. And most likely it was John Candy, because that was absolutely one of Dad's favorite, if not his favorite.
I think Uncle Buck was the
actor.
first one he showed us.
Yeah.
We all sat there together and watched Uncle Buck together. And it's just,
but you look at the impact that like John Candy had on screen, off screen, and I related directly back to like how Dad lived his life, where the impact, if Dad had an interment, roads would have been shut down for it. I mean, we were asked by local police departments, "Do you need us?"
Yeah,
and
we had like 4 towns asking.
We
like, what do you need?
only didn't need them because of Dad getting cremated. If not, he would have had roads literally shut down in 3 different towns for an interment. So, the lasting impact, that John Candy had, the power of movies, coming into the lives at that time, because that's what it was. It wasn't Facebook. It wasn't social media. It wasn't, for us growing up, it was the TV. When we had time together and we were able to watch TV, it was genuine movies. I mean, that's all I kept going back to, in the last 10 minutes of that documentary, was the impact that Dad had, and how John Candy impacted his life, as a father too, traveling, trying to be as, present as he could when he was home, but also, still making a living.
Right, and that's like the Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, like, relation with Dad. It's like, that movie's all about a dad trying to get home to his kids and his wife for Thanksgiving. Like, he'll do anything. Walk across a working runway, drive through drive a burning car miles down the road, and then you're peeling your fingers off at the end. Like, that's like the sacrifices you make as a dad. And that's kind of like what I think is one of the big things that relates to me, is like Candy would do anything for his kids. Like, you watch the documentary I Like Me, and like you see all the interaction he has with his kids. You talk, one of the things that like hit me with that is like with the Macaulay Culkin interview, where Macaulay's like, everyone knows like Macaulay's story and like how his father was a turd and like was not a good person. And like Candy's on set of Uncle Buck, and he's like, "You okay? Like, if you need anything, let me know. Like, I'll take care of it." Like, he sees what's going on, and he's being a dad on set to one of his coworkers, and like that's just the guy that he was.
Look at the impact he had on him even after. We all know Macaulay Culkin's life after Home Alone, right? Drugs. He got into a whole mess of stuff, right? But sitting down for that documentary and hearing him talk about John Candy and the impact, and how he wished he would have seen him again, and say, "Hey, look how I became. Look at me as a teenager now." Like, he wanted to show him so much how he was, how he succeeded.
To go back, Jay, to Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, I see Dad as the same way that you are as a dad to trying to get home, but I also see him, like Steve Martin, not being able to turn away Del Griffith.
Right. Oh, 100%.
Because of the person that he was, right? So it's funny because it's not John Candy, but Dad fulfills both roles in that, right?
Right.
Like, he would never have been able to turn down Del. He would have done the exact same thing that Steve Martin did. But also, I could see him having a little bit of Del Griffith in him.
100%.
because he's going to talk to everybody, right? Like, you know, he's on the plane. He's like, oh, my dogs are barking. And then he takes his shoes off. I mean, Dad wouldn't do that, right?
Takes his shoes off and his socks
And then his
off.
socks. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
like, but sitting in the airport, right? And like, he's reading the Canadian Mounted. Dad wouldn't read that. Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe.
But he
know
looks
that for sure,
across, like looking across, and he's like, I know you. That's something Dad would do. He'd be like,
Yeah.
we've met before.
You stole my cab.
Right. Right. I know you.
But- And I see it too, Sean, like right at the end, like when John Candy goes off, right? And he's standing there, goes, I should probably invite him home. I can't let him go home. Like, I
Yeah,
should probably invite him home for
Well,
Thanksgiving.
you see him
Like,
on the
that's
train
something
and-
Dad would do. Like Dad would just come home and say, hey, so-and-so's coming here for Thanksgiving.
I mean, that's how we all were. I mean, how
Mhm.
many times did like Bill Hunt, like he didn't have anybody to go, so we invited him to dinner. Like we invited him to Thanksgiving, Christmas. Like how many times did we do that with people that just needed that spot? I do it now. Like my buddy that I worked with lives here alone. I'm like, yo, I don't give him an option. Like I'm like, yo, buddy, you're coming. Like you can come to Thanksgiving, or you can come to Christmas because I know you're not going home to Ohio for both because you got to work. So you choose whichever one you're not going home, you're coming to my house for. And it's like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it was an open door policy, and it's the same thing, right? Like you're driving home and you're like, man, so-and-so is probably not able to get home. Because like in the field that we're in, right, we see people from all over the country. There's people that travel here for this job and they don't go home, or they don't have anyone other than the people that they work with on their shift or the people in the fire department. So you essentially become their family. And I mean, that's a huge thing that, we'll get into later,
also,
but like dynamics, the guys that work are my family. The guys that I have friends, it's not even friends, they're family, right? I just lost one of my guys on my shift. He went to another department and he's family. So you don't lose him. He's just working at a different place. And, he wrote me a note and he said, you're not getting rid of me because we're family. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Like, that's what I preach.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, you're a real problem.
and they talk about the Candy family, like when they lost his dad and he went and lived at his grandparents' house. They had an open door policy. Like the house was never closed to anybody. And I mean, like you said, in the profession I remember we used to take duty for the first aid squad because everybody that didn't have somewhere to go was like, oh yeah, like you all have family, like we'll take duty. And we took it because Mom always was like, I'm gonna make enough food because I never know how many people are gonna be here. And we used to let her know, hey, we're coming with the whole crew.
Yeah.
And we would
Or
just
we
bring
were
the
the crew.
ambulance to the house.
Park the
We were
ambulance
the
in the
crew.
driveway.
Right, parked the
The
ambulance
three of us were
at the
crew.
house.
Yeah.
and Bill. And
Almost
we would
every
just
Christmas.
literally just take call because even if you were, on our crew, you were coming to our house for dinner. And that carried all the way through. I say that to guys now. I say it to, neighbors, friends, anytime. Come anytime. My house is your house.
Right. And like we had a situation on the block where one of our neighbors' houses did burn down last week. And like it affected all of us. Like and they're new neighbors, like they've just been here for 5 months, like lost everything. And like two young kids, and like we were devastated as like a neighborhood. And we live on a smaller kind of neighborhood where there's only about 10 houses on 2 cul-de-sacs. And it's like it wasn't like it was all of us were out there. We were out there, and like it got down to the point where the construction company came in to kind of board everything up and like help them through the whole process. And they're phenomenal. Like they're awesome. Like this company, I can't talk highly enough. I'm not mention any names or anything because we don't have a
That's big. That's
contract with them yet.
big money.
But like these two guys legitimately were like out there the next morning, like they're like, what do you need us to find? Like we will find it. And like they found everything. They found wedding rings. They found like grandparents' jewelry. But they're like, they legitimately care. And like they said to us, they're like, we see people come out in mass for fires. And Sean, you know this. Like there's always the gawkers. But like we were there not to gawk and watch the fire trucks and the firefighters and everything. Like we were there for them. I didn't care. Like I knew what was going on at the house. Like I cared about being there for them when they got there because they were both out of not in town. So like one was 45 minutes away, one was 20 minutes away. So like I cared about them and like taking care of them because that's kind of I feel like that role where like I want to be that, hey, listen, like we got you, like we'll take care of you. And like we've donated clothes and like money and everything. Like we want to take care of them. Like they're part of our family. So
Well, that's
it's just
one of the things that people forget, right? So you talk about death and grieving, and people forget after the funeral. And I don't want to say they forget, right? But it's not front of mind. So you leave the funeral, you go to the repast, the Irish wake, whatever it is, you're hanging out, you're doing everything, and then
banging on the table.
the next day, everything goes back to normal. And it's like, how do I live
For
with
everybody else but you?
Right. I read something the other day that said you are a different person the day that your parent dies. That your old self dies with them, and I think that is 100% true.
So true.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
true.
100% true. But going back to Candy and Farley, and I mean, I think this is good conversation. I think it fits really well. But thinking about it from the sandwich generation standpoint, right? As kids, we're watching these movies and we're like, oh, these are funny. You know, they're funny. This guy's funny. He's got the giant pancake and Uncle Buck, and he's like, you know, flipping the pancake, or like the first day they come down and they're like, what is this for breakfast? And he's like, oh, it's my specialty eggs. And they're like,
there's onions in it.
Yeah. It's like mustard. Like it's, and you know, you have all of these really funny clips, and then you transition to adulthood and you're like, why am I like getting worked up about this? Like, why am I a little bit, you know, not sad, but like, why am I on my feels?
Right. You're
Because
relating
now,
more on it.
yeah, because now you're looking at it not as a kid that doesn't understand life. You're looking at it as a adult that's like, man, I've been through this. Like I've been through
you're currently going through it.
Like I've been through the Rolodex of people like, hey, I need you to come stay with my kids because something happened, right? Like dad's cardiac arrest, the first one. You know, we're going through the Rolodex, like who's going to watch the kids? And luckily, you know, we all have a great support system and we found people. But like, that's, you know, everyone's been in that situation and it hits differently when you're an adult.
Yeah. And you come down to that one person, you're like, oh, man, that's what you can call him. He is your brother. And it's like, hey, Buck. And it's like 2:00 in the morning. And you know he was at the bowling alley smoking Marlboros and drinking Millers until 2:00 in the morning, and it's 3:30 right now, and he's just half in the bag still. But yeah, I mean that's like the funny thing, like talking about like even the getting back to the Tommy Boy. Like you look at Farley, and he's doing all these like he gets smacked in the face with the door of the cab, and he's like, "Oh, son of a, that's gonna leave a mark." And like he's going into these meetings, and like you're like, who cares about these meetings? And then like you become an adult and you're like, holy crap, this guy's trying to save his dad's company. Like his dad's company's toast. And he's working his ass off to save this company. And like having been in a sales role and like being in those awkward situations where like he's got the two cars and he's like, sets him on fire. And like
that was my Sunday.
Spades in the background, just losing his mind because like, well, here we go. Here comes unemployment. So, but like having been there,
puking his guts out.
Yeah, I mean, like we've all been like I've been there. I know that situation, and it's crazy how you go from seeing it as like this stupid comedy as a high school kid that you're like I can watch this over and over again, and you get to the point where like you're an adult and you're like my God, this is actually a kind of serious movie where like he's trying to save his dad's company. Like his dad left him this company and like he's got to save it. Like there's this scumbag. Aykroyd's character once again is awesome.
Ray
And
Zelinsky.
Ray Zelinsky, and like he's got to save this company so Zelinsky doesn't take him down.
And
It's just awesome.
without any sales experience, right? Like the guy comes in cold. He gets an office and
Freezer burn.
he's doing Darth Vader voices in the office.
I mean,
Like
you
he's
don't
got
do
a
that
mini
when you
fridge
get
in
a new
there. He's like,
office?
"Oh, a mini fridge, cool! I can fill this full of sodas."
So does.
Like you could tell the guy, and because his dad has done so well, he never had to do anything. Took however many years to graduate college, comes home, and is essentially everything is on a silver platter until the wedding, and then all of a sudden it
Mhm.
becomes real to him. Like I need to step up and do something.
Well, and both movies, right? So Tommy Boy and Uncle Buck, and I think, like you said, Uncle Buck is the biggest thing we're going to probably talk about. They're smack in the face movies, and you don't see that as a high school kid. Like at some point, life is going to smack you in the face. You lose a parent, you lose someone close to you, smacks you in the face. What do you do after it? Do you let it drag you down, or do you do something different with it? And like Uncle Buck, it wasn't necessarily loss, but taking care of kids was his smack in the face.
Yeah,
And
like you go
all
from
of a sudden he's responsible for these kids, right?
worrying about your own toilet paper to you have 3 kids that are now that you're relying on you to get to school, to get fed, to like live life. And then you have a teenager in the middle of that.
Right. And that's
Like-
that's so funny because that's one of the scenes that, as a kid, as a high school kid, and or for me it was even younger, right? When I watched that scene, I was like, oh, it's all that was the popcorn scene. That was the bathroom scene, like the party. Uncle Buck going to the party to get her from the party. That's my life right now. Like I look at that and go, that's probably how I want to go about. God forbid my daughter's ever in a situation where she's at a party and I got to go get her. Like that's a real life scenario for me that could happen.
You keep a cordless
but
drill
that
in
was-
your trunk
You never know.
I do.
You never know.
and
Solid.
golf clubs. Yeah,
You got golf
Um,
clubs and a Ryobi cordless drill with 2 batteries, baby.
So much things you could do with just a few tools.
That's it.
But yeah, like that's going back and watching different scenes and seeing the different scenes pop up, and watching the movie again. Just it does. You're right. I mean, Sean, you nailed it on the head. It hits different now, and it's going to hit different in 10 years than it did way back when we first were introduced.
and I think so. We talk about loss with Tommy Boy, with Big Tom. I think it's gain in Uncle Buck. He gains a family back.
Yeah, he gets his family. And then
He
like
gets he is essentially the prodigal son who has returned, and they were like, well, what's this house going to look like when we get back? Because it's obviously like this guy is single. He goes to the bowling alley, goes to the track. Like it's going to be a nightmare. And they come back and the kids are just enthralled with this guy. And they love him, and they want to. You can tell, like they don't say it, but like they want to see him again at family functions. They want to see him at the holidays. Like Shanice says at the end, she's like, "Oh yeah, well we'll get together for Thanksgiving or for Christmas or something like that." Like it's and talk about the car. It's like he
Backfire.
gains so much from I think it's like 4 or 5 total days that he's with these kids. And he gets that back. He gets his life and his family back on track because he was put in a difficult spot.
Right. And like talking about the scene with Tia, the high school daughter. And like that's one of the quotes that always stays with me, and like I actually pulled it out and I was like wanted to see it because like it says like Buck Russell, there's a one family charity case who loves you very much. And Tia's like, I'm sorry. And she's crying. And he's like, hey, come on, nothing to be sorry about. I'm just glad I got the chance to know you again. Like,
boom.
and like talking about like Dad's funeral, like how many people did we see that we hadn't seen in years? Like even Aunt Pam, like we hadn't seen Aunt Pam in probably 15 years. And like, it was like it was like the same, like we all did a shot together.
Well, and that's I like how you put it, Sean, because that truly is the way it is. It's redemption. It doesn't matter what's happened in the past. If anybody's given the opportunity, whether you're the black sheep of the family, right? You're the one that nobody calls, or the one that's like, I gotta call that guy. Like, if you're that guy, take the opportunity. It's not gonna be comfortable. I say it in coaching, but and I say it to my kids, be comfortable with the uncomfortable. Like, that's truly what Uncle Buck was. Like, he had no idea what he was going in there. He could make food. He could tell him to go to school on time, but he took it and he kind of ran with it. And in our family, like we weren't the perfect family. Like there were aunts and uncles that we hadn't talked to in years. And as we said it last episode, don't let, a funeral be the reason people come together. Give family that opportunity again. Time and space creates various thoughts. And if there's been time and space, it's okay to leave something in the past and move on and give Uncle Buck the chance. Give that aunt or uncle or, best friend a chance to come in when needed. Don't look at that number and go, yeah, no, I'm not calling that guy. Give him the chance, But I like the way you put that, Sean. Uncle Buck's like that redemption type movie where Tommy Boy is focused around that loss.
And
Yeah,
and
and
like,
I mean,
good. Going from like Tommy Boy in the Lost to like part of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is Dell, and like Dell doesn't tell his whole story. He's not giving everything to I can't think of his name. Whatever, he's not giving him all the information. So he's like, oh, I haven't been home in years. But he hasn't been home in years because his wife passed away. He doesn't want to go home. He doesn't want to go back to reliving that.
And it's down to the last scene. He's like, I can't let him go home to his wife. He still doesn't know.
He's like, I can't let him go home. Like, I can't let him just go home. I think he knows that his wife had passed away at that point. And he's like on the train and he's going the opposite direction. And he's like, I can't let this guy just go be by himself on Thanksgiving. And the next scene is the two of them walking down the street carrying Go ahead.
Neil Page,
that's it. When it's Neil and Dell walking down the street to Neil's house, carrying the
big trunk.
The big trunk that literally caused the situation in the beginning. Because Neil's going to catch the cab and trips over this trunk. Dell picks up the trunk, puts it in the cab, and gets in Neil's cab. Like, that's
never
like,
thought
it's
of that.
It's something that you don't really think about.
No,
but it's
now,
the beginning and the end of that story kind of go around that trunk. And like, how many episodes, like the trunk falls off the back of the car when they're going the wrong way on the interstate and they go through the two semi trucks and you just turn and you see John Candy as the devil driving the car. And he's like, and like, you know that is just one of those scenes, and you see the trunk fly off the back of the car, and then they go off, they pull over, they get the trunk, and they turn around, and the car's on fire. Because Dell's cigarette didn't go out the window, it went into the back seat. And like, if you think about like, you pull that with Candy and Farley has the convertible, and they put the deer in the back. And the deer destroys the convertible.
The deer,
just like they did. Yeah,
it is the exact same thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities between Farley and Candy. There's a lot of
similarities between those two movies, between Tommy Boy
look at
Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
So look at that, right? So we're right there with like the two movies. Now compare it to the lessons Dad taught us. Almost every lesson comes out of one of those two movies or is in one of those two movies, right? Like tripping over, and I'm going to use this because Dad inevitably, every month or 2 months, Dad would say it. It is what it is.
Mhm.
Deal with it. It happened
Say it
for
every
a
day.
reason. It there was a reason he tripped over that trunk.
Mm-hmm.
That trunk played a big role in changing lives, and that Dad said it repeatedly. It is what it is. Things happen for a reason. What's meant to be will meant to be. It was like a broken record. It would always come out because something would happen in our lives. We'd complain to each other. Inevitably, we'd call Dad, and he'd be like,
It is what it is.
"Go with it. It is what it is. You
Got it.
can't change it. Go with it."
Just gotta figure it out. We'll figure it out.
But the similarity in those movies is just it's crazy. But look at the actors within it. Look at just look how that connection and who knows? I mean, I think Tommy Boy came out after Uncle Buck.
Way after.
Many years.
97, I
Many
think.
years.
So you can't tell me that some of those actors, right, brought in some of the stuff that they learned from John Candy to that movie.
Oh,
Because
100%.
Well, yeah, I
because
mean,
he
and
had such
like
an
we said,
impact on all of those characters.
Chris Farley John Candy was one of his idols,
Yeah, him
Yes.
and Belushi.
right?
Mhm.
Him and Belushi,
And,
you can tell because the way that his comedy works, right?
Yeah,
like
Farley's comedy is very like you look at the Saturday Night Live skits, and Farley's Saturday Night Live skits and Belushi's Saturday Night Live skits
almost the
are
same.
probably some of the funniest that have
Down
in
by the-
history.
Band Down by the River.
Van Down by the River.
Well, they're
Like,
just so
my
animated, right?
favorite-
Like they were both
my favorite
so
is-
animated.
are the Chicago ones where he's the
Dub Bears.
The Dub Bears, or when he does Chippendales with
Swayze.
Patrick Swayze. That is just like you can't. The guy was just a genius, and he didn't care, and he used his weight, and he was overweight, and he used it to his advantage. Like we said, fat guy in a little coat. Who would ever think of that? Like Spade was a quarter of the size of this guy, and
was that line improv?
yes. From what I understand and what I've read, yes, that was improv.
Because I didn't realize how much John Candy improv.
Candy improved a lot.
yeah.
It
But I'm
was
sure
just
Farley
amazing.
did,
Like I
too.
said, that documentary opened my eyes to so
Uh-huh.
much.
Well,
Well,
that's,
even in-
and like if
Good.
no, go ahead, you go.
Even in the Chris Farley documentary, because I did a bunch of research, which was really tough on me for this to watch documentaries on
The Candy one
Candy
is
and Farley,
worse.
right?
Is
Uh,
so
Well,
good.
I mean that one, shed a couple tears.
brutal.
Gets really dusty in here. But the Farley documentary is funny because when they talk about Saturday Night Live and they talk about skits and they talk about Chris, he never was upset that he didn't get chosen, like that his skit didn't get chosen, right? But there was one skit that he did, and Sandler was supposed to get the laugh, and they're like, Chris I guess he looked at David Spade and was like, "Watch this, I'm gonna get the laugh." And Spade's like, "You're not supposed to get the laugh. Sandler's supposed to get the laugh," and he's like, "Just watch this." And it's in a restaurant, and Sandler's supposed to be it's the Pepper Boy
Mhm.
skit. So Sandler comes up, he goes, "Would you like some pepper? Fresh ground pepper?" And Farley, like, I forget his line, but he delivered it in the most robust way that everyone kind of looked around and was like, is this guy serious right now? But he got the laugh, right? He didn't, and it's crazy because he was a very humble person, and he didn't want, he was always worried about what everybody thought. Did I do good? Did I do all right? Was it good? So he was a little bit insecure, but also humble to the point where he wasn't demanding Lauren Roberts, like, I'm the funniest person here. You need to put my skits on. I get that there's a lot of talent, but I'm the guy that people are watching for. And he never made it about that.
And Candy was the same way. Look at his anxiety towards the end. His anxiety was, am I doing good enough for my family? Am I doing good enough for this movie? He was never upset he didn't get a role. He tried hard, but his anxiety built over, am I doing enough for my family? Am I doing enough for this director, this movie. I mean, he was very candid about, I hated working for these directors or I hated working with these actors, but, he never let it show on the outside.
Yeah, I mean, he one of the quotes from I Like Me is, once you reach the top, you have to stay at the top. And that's what he was worried about. Once you reach that pinnacle, it's very difficult to stay there. And that's what drove his anxiety. And that's what, I think drove him. And the weight thing too, right? Like they focus a lot about, everyone talked about his weight. And he would kind of brush it off, but it definitely took a toll on him. Like, hey, I know I'm the big guy, but like we don't have to keep mentioning it.
And like
So
that,
one of
the one thing with like that's the difference with Candy and Farley. Like Farley would be like, I'm going out and I'm ordering everything on the menu, and you guys can do whatever you want, but I'm paying and I'm ordering everything. Where like Candy actually took it seriously, and like they're like, even in the documentary they mentioned like how he was trying to lose weight and get healthy for his family.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just at that point in your life, you're almost cast on that fact that you are that heavier, funny guy. Like Farley was the fat, funny guy, but Farley embraced it in life and on the screen. And with Farley, like one of the hardest things for me is to listen to that Sandler song. And like Sean and I were, and we were talking about it in the pre-show, and like that song is brutal. Like my kids love Sandler's grown-ups movies. Absolutely. We watched them last night.
Yep.
And like the line where he's like, we should be getting on a plane to shoot Grown Ups 3. And like Sandler is like a legit dude. Like he takes care of his homies. Like I had the opportunity to actually work one of his shows because we do volunteer work for University of Virginia down at their campus for shows and stuff to get money for my daughter's dance team. So we worked the show, and like we're sitting outside, and like we weren't allowed to go in to see the pre-show and sound check, but like we're sitting out there, and like you see David Spade wasn't there, but it was like him and
Kevin James.
Kevin James was there, and like Kevin James and him were like riffing back and forth, like figuring out their set, and it was just so funny. Like it just, to be honest, like it looked like two guys just shooting the shit in their garage.
That's probably what it was.
That's what it was.
That's what it is.
It's just hanging out with your homies.
But that's the generation of that comedy, right? That's Sandler. That's Sandler and Rob Schneider and Kevin James. It's
and they all learned from who, right?
Belushi,
they all pulled it from
and
Candy. Like they truly,
yeah,
and they learned how
Chevy
to be
Chase.
human beings with it all too. I mean, like truly human beings. Like they balanced family life and being at the top of your game. Like they were at the top and still trying to balance both.
I mean, if you look at like the family thing with like, so John Belushi and Aykroyd were the original Blues Brothers, but the Blues Brothers still tour, and it's Aykroyd and Jim Belushi. They tour together, and like Jim Belushi has his weed show, which I find to be hilarious, but and like he just talks about Aykroyd and how they're such good friends and how he's his brother. Like that's just that generation growing up. It wasn't a competition of who could be better. It was almost like, how can we as a group become this awesome comedy group? What movies can we do together?
And
comes
Compass
back
Family,
to Second City,
right?
And to Saturday Night Live.
And look at the most recent, right? We were talking about old movies. Look at one of the most recent Adam Sandler movies, Happy Gilmore 2. What did Adam Sandler do, right? He put his family in the movie.
Yeah.
His daughters are in a lot of his movies.
Right. So he found a way to incorporate his home life into his work life so he could be present for both.
Right. Yeah, Sandler's a good dude. He's one of my personal comedy icons. I don't know, a lot of people don't know this. I did comedy for about a year out of college, just off the cuff, open mic nights. It was rough. I was not that great, but it was a lot of fun. And like, you don't understand how tough stand-up comedy is until you're standing there with a microphone in your hand and there's 60 pairs of eyes looking at you and trying to make them laugh. I have some good friends that do it very well. I still talk to, but yeah, it's a rough go. And like acting's a rough go. So these guys are doing both. I mean, you're look at Will Ferrell and like how much he's done, and like his new show, like the Hawk.
That dude is just always in character.
Always in character, always, and it's just you can't beat it. And like Candy was always in character, but Candy's character was himself
Again,
which was I loved it.
This generation of actors, right? Look at the impact Will Ferrell is having on Ryan Reynolds.
Right,
One movie together, and all of a sudden, Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds have this bond, and it's like the passing of the torch, right?
Mhm.
The passing of the torch of that generation.
Well, you know who did I Like Me, right?
Who
Ryan
produced it?
Reynolds
Yeah.
Really?
and Colin
There's-
Hanks.
And Colin Hanks.
It was produced by
And
both of them.
at the premiere, Colin Hanks and John Candy's son showed up,
That was the
pulled
best.
up to the red carpet in the old LeBaron,
Yep,
That's
smoking
awesome.
everything.
smoking
is
like
Awesome.
everything. It was awesome. Like it's Colin Farrell's a good dude too, and they produced a lot. If you haven't seen I Like Me, you got to go watch it, just for the sheer fact of like seeing the family man that John Candy was, and how much he cared about his kids, and what he did for his kids. It's just unbelievable. Like he
Well,
was just such a genuine dude.
And it truly, like, if you're listening to us, you're in that sandwich generation, right? And it truly highlights John Candy's sandwich generation when he was in that phase of his life, how he handled it, how he dealt with it. And I can't, like Jay said, I Like Me. I mean, I highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. It's gonna hit home so much for anybody in this generation, and highlight so many memories for anybody in the older generation that grew up during that time frame. I'm gonna throw a question out for you though, with Chris Farley and John Candy both. Mine's has to do with Tommy Boy, is my answer. But after Dad died, first scene that comes to mind post Dad's death in one of those two actors' movies.
It's the.
I mean, it's definitely
I
Tommy
know
Boy.
exactly what it is.
Yeah.
It's
What's yours, Sean?
It's It's Tommy Boy walking down the street with the row of trees by himself after the funeral.
See,
Jay?
mine is Tommy in the sailboat at the end of the movie where it's like, hey Dad, need a little wind here. Got
He
a
gets
date.
smacked in the
Like-
face.
Like, and he's like, oh, like the wind kicks him. He's like, oh, thanks, Dad. And he's like sailing away. And like, I have those moments. Like, I'm not totally honest with you. Like, there's times where I'm talking to Dad, I'm like, hey, listen, I needed to assist on this one. Like,
I just
losing my
talked
job. It was like one of those times where like, damn, you know what, Dad? Can you talk to the big man upstairs and be like, not really the greatest time, but everybody's got, like, it comes back to that, like, and not to be religious or anything, but God has a plan for everybody, and it's never going to be a straight path. Like, everybody's life is going to have those curves, and it's how you handle them. And like, we were lucky enough that Dad was always there for us to talk to, and like, now we have the three of us. We're like, we've all gone through different types of situations where we can help each other out. But like, that's definitely the scene that hits me most, is like hey, you could use a little help here. And like,
So-
you got a date.
So fun fact, and I remembered it at this past Sunday. Sean knows what I went through at work this past Sunday. It was a little bit crazy. Dad shows up in some way anytime I get in a pursuit at work.
Yeah, he's yelling to just slow down.
No, he shows up. He never yelled slow down to Live PD.
No, he loves
So-
that. He did.
So he's not yelling slow down. He's giving me a win somewhere, and I truly chalk it up. I got to throw spike strips for the first time and got all 4 tires.
Yeah,
Win,
buddy.
right place, right time. But mine is the sailboat. That's what I always go
Mhm.
back to, because I find myself every few days, I'm looking up going, come on, Dad, give me something here. Give me something here. If I'm on the golf course with Aiden and Aiden's standing over the putt, I'm looking up going, come on, Dad, just give him this putt. I can't deal with the next hole if he doesn't make this putt. Like, give him something. But yeah, I've had 2 pursuits since Dad's died. And each one he's thrown something out, like, that's a clear sign, like that should not have happened. Like, I can't tell you how many times somebody's gotten all 4 tires and a spike strip. No, I got all 4 tires and the car caught on fire. Like, it was a straight win.
Where was Live PD on that one?
Right.
Right.
But like I look at that now after the fact, like, not in the moment, and I look at the fact, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, you got me on that one, and I didn't hit any of the spike strips that were laid across, down the road from the ones that the car tore apart, where 2 of my guys got flat tires. Like, no, I avoided all those, and I made sure I made it to the end somehow. But again, I look at it at the end, and I'm like, thanks, Pops. Like, thanks for the win on this one. Because for those of you that may not know Dad, Dad was not allowed to watch Live PD after he tried to arrest Mom in his sleep.
In his sleep.
Yeah.
So
still
he was
always
an
down here. Always down here.
avid Live PD watcher.
And I don't remember
So-
him watching that stuff until we kind of got into the profession. Like, we used to watch Rescue 911 as kids, and like that was really the extent of it. Like, he wasn't really into that stuff until we got into it, and then he was like, "Oh, this is dope! Like, I love watching people chase other people and live
Every
PD
Friday
stuff."
and Saturday
like,
night when he was here.
And when we went to your wedding, and he was like, "Oh man, I wonder if the live PD cops are going to be there, Michael." Like, and like, I think it was between him and Ryan. We're seeing which live PD cop would show up to the wedding, and
Right.
they could get their autograph. Like, that was so funny.
and pulling it back in, like, those are the moments. Those are the sailboat moments for me, right? Times like that where something will smack me in the head, and I'm like, okay, yeah, no, he gave me some wind on this one. But those are what kind of carries things through, right? And like you said, Jay, like, I truly believe people are, when people pass on, they stay with you. Dad comes out more for me at work. I knew he would. And there's just weird things that happen at work that I'm like, that should not have gone that way. Like, I've played that scenario, I don't know how many times in my head, and that should not have gone that way. So, Tommy Boy, and look in Tommy Boy, it's not just in the sailboat. I mean, as he's making some of those sales pitch, you hear him say lines like, all right, Dad, give me this one. Like, brake pads. There's something periodically throughout that movie where he is seeking that guidance from his father throughout trying to save the company.
Right. 100%. And like, so like bringing it back to like Dad and the Candy movies growing up. And like, one of the things that I didn't realize until probably about 6 months after Dad died was that Dad and John Candy died on the same day. So they both died on March 4th. Not the same year. Dad died in 2024. Candy died in 94. So it was a 30-year difference, but
On the nose.
25? 25.
Yeah, 25.
25. All right, so 31 year. But like dad introduced us to Candy movies, and like that was one of the things that I felt was real weird to me, is like to have that connection with him. And I don't know, it's one of those things that kind of really hit home. Like, Dad introduced us to Candy and all his movies and stuff, and this is just one of the things that kind of tied it back into like Dad and how there are weird things that happen like that kind of bring everything back together.
So one of the things that brings it for me back together is listening to Dan Aykroyd's eulogy for John Candy at his funeral. I was fortunate enough to give Dad's eulogy, and as I listened to Dan Aykroyd's, I was up at the podium doing the exact same thing. And the words were very, very similar.
Yeah,
The way that I talked and the way that, so I'll give you a couple lines because I have Dad's eulogy in front of me. It's on my desk, always next to him, who's on my desk. Hey, Dad. I mean, it is what it is. That's where he is.
He's present.
Show the
He's
picture.
present for all the Love You Pal podcasts, by the way.
Show the pictures.
He is. So in Candy's eulogy, Aykroyd goes through, some stuff about John. And then he says, "This is no meager life we reflect on today. This is as full a life as any human can live. Joy, emotional abundance of spirit, infectious rage, a tinge of Lugosi-like madness with his bottom reverse vampire teeth and all. A titan of a gentle golden man," right? So I start Dad's eulogy with, where do I start when trying to talk about a mountain of a man? Not as, eloquent as Dan Aykroyd, but I'm not Dan Aykroyd. I'm a simple fireman, right? But then the next statement is, "Dad, you truly were one of the most loved people on earth." It's like, I don't know. I listened to that eulogy and it brings back every emotion that I was feeling standing on that podium. Because I truly feel like Dad and John Candy were very similar human beings. And their hearts were bigger than they were. And they did right in the do right zone. They were mountains of men, and they lived no meager life. So that's kind of, when I think about it, that's where I'm at. Like, that's where I think of the two of them together, right? And then I think of the transitioning to Chris Farley, and the scene that hits me the most is walking down that lane by yourself and the realization that this is the new normal. You're not coming back. I'm going to be walking alone.
So
now I'm never alone, right? But at the same time, I don't have that physical being next to me. So I have to rely on my memories and the lessons that he taught me so that I can go out and be successful, just like Tommy Boy did throughout the movie to get the sales and save the company.
Well, it's funny you bring up the eulogies as your part. It's not funny, but, it's ironic, I can say, because that's what stood out to me in I Like Me. But it was a little bit different. When I heard Catherine O'Hara's eulogy, I pictured Dad for everything she was saying.
Mm-hmm.
The description she gave was Dad's life. And that, like I said, back in the beginning of this, it was like Dad learned his parenting lessons from John Candy, from the movies. Like, the lessons we got from Dad are identical to the movies that John Candy played in, especially if he had a parental role. Whether it was Summer Rental or whether it was Uncle Buck, or, all of those movies that involved a family were identical almost to the lessons Dad taught. Whether we were on vacation, whether we were at home, whether we were adults, whether we were kids, there was that direct tie. And after watching I Like Me, seeing that was truly John Candy's life, just full circle, right? It just brought it full circle.
Yeah, I mean, looking at that, the text of that eulogy, Catherine O'Hara says, "Or maybe you're here at St. Basil, which is the church that they had the funeral at tonight, because you were friends with John at school. And when he became famous, you all got shy about calling him, little knowing that you were in his thoughts, but he was too shy to call you." Right? Like, we know that Dad wasn't the great communicator. That's, where we get it from, obviously.
Yeah.
He was on the phone all day at work, so he didn't want to pick up the phone to call people. Like, he used to, he'd be like, "Oh, phone's ringing." Even, later in his life, he'd be like, "Oh, I don't." I'm like, "All right, well,
He
you should
cared.
probably pick it up, Dad."
He cared more about other people than himself, and that's the part in Catherine O'Hara's eulogy that stood out. You know, whether he's at a bar and nobody's leaving because John Candy hadn't left yet, but maybe he's
Yeah.
staying longer so the bar can do better because maybe they're not doing so well.
Yep.
That's the kind of stuff that Dad did. Those are those little things that he wouldn't sit there and say, "No, I'm staying here because the bar's not doing good." No, he would just continue the party. If everybody was staying because Jeff was still there, then Jeff was still there. I mean, look at all the things that he brought to Peace Pipe. Look at all the things that he helped in Peace Pipe. And, you know, it was inevitable. We've been to Peace Pipe long enough. Once Dad left, people started kind of trickling out. Some people would stay longer, some people wouldn't. But most of the time, Dad was able to keep the party going, and it wasn't always to keep a party going. It was, well, if everybody's here, that means the bar's doing well. That means the club's doing well. That means, you know, the people that are serving are getting tipped. And I mean, Dad taught us all. I still tip the same way. You take care of your servers, and John Candy was the same way. And truly, like I said, that's why Catherine O'Hara's her eulogy stood out to me, very similar to what would be said at Dad's.
Yeah. So back to trying to bring this from a deeper note to a lighter note. If your kids only watch one Candy movie and one Farley movie, which would you choose?
Uncle Buck.
Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
What about
And
Farley?
It would have to be Tommy Boy. Tommy Boy is my go-to Farley movie. I love Black Sheep, but yeah, Tommy Boy is just there.
So Tommy Boy is a big one for me. If you have to name a movie, if I could make Avery watch one, it would be the skit Van Down by the River. That would be the Chris Farley I would want her to see today.
That skit's called Motivational Speaker.
Yes. If I could separate, you know, obviously I want my kids to see all of my kids to see the movie, but it would Motivational Speaker would definitely be that skit that I would want at least my older kids to see.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I can choose one. I mean,
Candy, you got Candy. You really can't choose.
They've already seen
Summer
Cool
Rental.
Runnings.
I love Great Outdoors. I love Uncle Buck. You know, those are I think the big three. You know, Splash. He did some stuff with Splash like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Harry Crumb. Like those are some lesser known turkeys, as they called them in the documentary. But I mean, Uncle Buck's probably it. I think that has a lot of life lessons in it. I think that shows the true John Candy. And then, I mean, I don't know, man. Tommy Boy and Black Sheep are pretty close. Tommy Boy's more of
Tommy
a
Boy has more lessons.
Yeah, Tommy Boy definitely has more lessons in it. So it's probably Uncle Buck and Tommy Boy. That's probably it. Do we want to do rapid fire or we want to wrap it up?
Let's rapid fire real quick.
Let's rapid fire.
Rapid fire. All right. Favorite Candy movie?
Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Okay. Summer Rental. Favorite Chris Farley movie?
I'm going Tommy Boy.
I'm going Black Sheep. Yeah. When Gary Busey shows up in that thing, that's a real win. I'm going Black Sheep because I got to go against the grain. Most emotional scene for either one.
I think the scene where the I Like Me speech from Del to Neil is by far one of the best scenes in history. Period.
Yeah. Yep.
Like I pulled the quote out and I put it on. I put it down because it's it's like Neil's berating Del, berating him, just laying into him. And Del's like, "You want to hurt me? Go right ahead if it makes you feel better. I'm an easy target. Yeah, you're right. I talk too much. I also listen too much. I could be a cold-hearted cynic like you, but I don't like to hurt people's feelings." Boom. That's huge.
Yeah.
Well, you think what you want to think about me. I'm not changing. I like me. Like, I like me. That's all that matters.
It's such a powerful. That's such a powerful monologue. So powerful.
Like that's one of the hardest things for people to do is to like yourself. And if you
we
can
gotta
like yourself
before you can do anything.
right. If you can,
And that's the
be one with
power.
yourself.
That's the power of moving out on your own and having that time living on your own. Is you have to learn to like yourself. It's a crucial part of life. So yeah, I forgot the question because it wasn't rapid fire with Jason.
It was most emotional scene.
Most emotional scene. I'm gonna go still Tommy Boy for Chris Farley. Are we doing Candy or Chris Farley? I can't remember.
Either one.
Whichever you want.
Either one. Most emotional scene. I am going Chris Farley on the sailboat when he gets smacked by the wind. Just from his monologue, and I don't have it written down. I didn't do my research, but just his monologue. Every time I watch that, every time I've seen it since that passed, him just talking his feelings through to the sky, to the wind, absolutely most emotional.
I think I could probably quote that, but I'm not going to try. I'm pretty confident I have it. Wow. Most emotional scene for me is probably the same one that I talked about earlier, where Tommy's walking down the lane after the funeral and at the cemetery, and it's just him. I don't know. Maybe I'm a little bit softer than most, but that's always, especially after Dad died. That scene has just been. It's been tough, not tough to watch, but it really brings levity to a really funny movie. All right, last one. What character reminds you most of yourself?
Most of myself.
Candy's summer rental character. I mean, that's me to a T.
It's a good one.
Like, I'm just that goofy dad who's trying to do everything, trying to walk with a broken foot, sunburnt with a crutch, carrying a tray of drinks, and just spilling it all over the place. Like that's
why did you spill the drinks? Because the neighbor. Because of the neighbor.
Because the neighbor walked out. So again, common trend, right? It's maybe because of the phase of life I'm in. I'm gonna go Uncle Buck. Why, right? My life right now, everything Uncle Buck is experiencing. When I jumped into parenthood quick, I jumped into being a teenage dad quick. Like it came quick. It's everything that Uncle Buck is experiencing. I feel like since I turned 25 on, I have literally lived everything he lived in those 4 days. So, one night I'm out drinking it at Howl at the Moon, Sean, and next thing you know, I'm a parent. So, yeah, I'm gonna stick with Uncle Buck on that. Every part of me wants to be, Kevin Spade and Tommy Boy, and dealing with Tommy, but
David Spade.
No,
it's David Spade, not Kevin.
David Spade. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. So, but yeah, no, I'm gonna go with Uncle Buck.
Mine is Chet Ripley from The Great Outdoors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Found what was stinking up the shower.
Yeah. Just because of the family man trying to do everything he can to bring his family back to a place that was just incredible for him and his dad. And then, the brother comes in and it's a real situation. And
Am I think the rich brother?
Yeah. One of you is, I don't know. It's probably Michael because he has twins. Whole Roman has twins.
And your twins are very similar to theirs.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Anybody want a twin?
And the bear. Yeah, the bear. But yeah, I think just trying to maintain while keeping the peace between family members, I think that kind of hits a little different for me in the role that I'm in right now. So sweet.
Can I throw one more rapid fire question?
Yeah.
Line. What line stands out to you?
Son of
One
a,
line.
that's going to
One
leave a
sentence.
mark.
Ask me that question. There's way too many.
One line. Top of the line. First one to come to your mind. Go.
Yeah,
I gave you
the
mine.
medic and Tommy Boy that goes, "Oh my god."
Mine is none of the movies we talked about. Home Alone. You know what a rat
Yeah.
smells like? My coat smells like Old Spice and rats. Smell it.
That's from the documentary. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's from
yeah.
Pierogi Fest, right? So
That's-
we went
that's-
to Pierogi Fest.
that's-
That's
That's
that
my
line
life right
didn't
now,
make the
is
movie.
like-
that didn't make the movie.
I
That line
walk into a room and I'm like, oh God, that smells like a dead rat. Or that smells like, that's my life. What's that smell?
Yeah. What's the?
I know it was stinking up the shower.
I mean, it's not even a line, but like when Uncle Buck takes the hatchet out of his trunk, and it's shining in the light. Like it's not a line, but it's
do you
powerful.
always carry that?
Oh man! All right. Closing out.
Don't
What
we
do
have
you guys
homework
got?
we have homework.
We do.
We got homework for you guys. So we want you to rewatch one of the Candy or Farley movies this week. We want you to comment on our socials, whichever you want, whichever you're on, and let us know which one you watched and why. What movie you watched and why. Next one, call somebody that you haven't talked to in a while. Make that connection back. Because you never know. You don't want it to be an Irish wake when you're getting back together and talking to people. Call that person you haven't talked to in a while.
Challenge. I'm going to put it as a challenge. I challenge all of you. And send us a DM. Tell us how it went. Send us an email, a message. But I challenge all of you listening, call somebody you haven't talked to. Absolutely. I like that, Jay. The person that you drive home and think about, like, oh, I got to talk to that person. I do it all the time. I'm with you. Call that person.
Can't do that.
Yeah, look through your
I don't have their
your
number.
contacts and see
Rolodex. Look through your Rolodex.
see who you haven't talked to in a while. I love doing that. And they're like, "Oh man, I haven't talked to him forever." And like I did a couple weeks ago, big Mets fan. So like when they fired the Mets manager, I called my old supervisor from the comm center and I was like, "Yo." And he goes, "What are you calling me for?" I was like, "You know what I'm calling me for." And he's like, "Oh yeah." And I was just like shooting shit for 5 minutes. It was just great. It's awesome to catch up with those people.
All right,
Yeah.
boys.
And so when you do your homework, make sure you hit us up on the socials. So we're on Instagram at Love You Pal Pod. We're on Facebook at Love You Pal Podcast. We are on TikTok, Love You Pal Podcast. Also on YouTube, Love You Pal Podcast. You can listen to the episode or you can watch it to see our ugly mugs. Email is loveyoupalpod@gmail.com. If you have show ideas, if you have any of the homework questions, right? Which Candy movie or Farley movie did you watch? How did it make you feel compared to how it made you feel the first time you watched it? And yeah,
Hey, didn't you do a guest appearance too?
I did. So I was fortunate enough through some mutual friends to get on the Engine House podcast to talk about grief and losing dad and kind of the sandwich generation stuff. The episode's not out yet. I will keep everyone updated on when it comes out. But go ahead, go over, give Cody a follow at Engine House Podcast. Has some really great stuff out there, especially if you're in the fire service or emergency services. Some real relevant stuff. He also has a apparel brand, Engine House Apparel. They make some really cool stuff as well. So if you need stuff for work or just kind of everyday lounging, check him out. And again, he's on Instagram, Facebook, Engine House Apparel, Engine House Podcast. So, all right. So to bring it to a close, sometimes the people who make us laugh the hardest leave us with the biggest lessons. On that note, love you, pal.
Love you, pal.
Love you, pal.